What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for listening. I wanted to put this in the top of the show. Make sure you subscribe on Patreon, patreon.com/Brennan Tassif. Check out the merch store at brennantcomedy.com to get your ex-drinking buddy merch. Subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts. As always, we're coming to you live from Gotham Production Studios, and I hope you enjoy the episode.
Grab me a beer and grab me a coke. We bout to sit for an hour, bullshit and tell jokes. And please don't mix it up, cause he done sobered up. Brennan T Comedy on your social media feeds. And Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. I'm your host, Brennan Tassif. If you are new to the show, quick rundown on the show. I used to be everyone's favorite drinking buddy. It was my favorite thing to do, hang out with friends, get drunk, do drugs, get in all sorts of trouble, and then reminisce about those crazy stories. I am sober now, but that is still one of my favorite things to do, hang out with someone and reminisce about the crazy old days. For some of us, the current days, however it goes. Most weeks I will be joined by a guest. This week is no exception. All the way from New York City, Jaclyn Lore Edwards.
Ow, ow.
I had to do a double take because I would just call you Jack.
Yeah, no, I am a woman.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
It's an honor.
Plug everything up front. You guys have the show that you do every month.
Oh, yes. Me and my wonderful boyfriend, Gregory, have a show once a month. It's at the Gray Mare, 61 2nd Avenue, the East Village.
The New Kids on the Mic.
It's called New Kids on the Mic. You can follow us on Instagram at New Kids Comedy. We post all our shows there. It's usually second or third Sunday of the month. So, yeah, it's been fun.
So I wanted to have you on because we had Greg on. So everyone's heard that episode, hopefully. And we were talking about how you guys kind of started the show, working at the club that you work at, and just meeting all these comics and stuff. And you and I were talking about it kind of before we started recording. But how did that whole the comedy thing come to pass for you? Because you're just recently moved to New York. Mm-hmm. You said July or June?
June, yeah.
Okay. So were you into comedy before you got here? Were you trying stand-up? Because I know Greg was saying he wasn't really into it because he moved here for acting.
Yeah, I had to take him under my wing.
Did you? How did that go? Tell me about it. Were you always a fan of stand-up? Did you want to try comedy? Was that something you moved here for?
I mean, I did an all-women's stand-up group in college.
Okay.
So I had
Where did you go to college?
I went to Wesleyan University.
Shouts out Wesleyan.
In Middletown, Connecticut. Yep. But I was in a group called the Hysterics, and it was really awesome. It was like we met once a week. It was all women or non-cis men, and we would just write together once a week, make our jokes, and have like a monthly show at our college.
Okay.
So that's how I kind of got used to like writing material and workshopping material.
What pushed you to do the group in the first place?
I just went to one of their shows at the orientation and I was like, these girls seem so cool.
Okay,
like I want to be like them. But I always liked comedy and I always wanted to like do comedy in some way.
What did you go to college for?
I went to college for film.
Oh, I was gonna say fine arts. I was close.
Yeah, for film. So I still do a little bit of film stuff in my current life. I write a lot of scripts. I read other people's scripts. But yeah, comedy was always like what I just felt like I got the most happiness out of doing. Mm-hmm. And so when I graduated college, I like did not want to get a big girl job.
Yeah.
I was so scared. And I also spent like my last year of college like during COVID. So I was like, that would suck. Like to go
sit
from
at home and work.
Yeah, like online class to just working all the time. So I decided to travel for like a year.
Okay, where'd you go?
I went to Colorado and San Diego. I worked in 2 hostels, one in each place. So when you work there, you get to like live there for free. So I lived in the hostels. And
were you doing comedy in Colorado and San Diego?
Not in Colorado, but in San Diego, I lived down the street from Madhouse Comedy Club.
Okay.
So they have open mics every single night. So I just started going there because it was like really easy and convenient.
So you weren't kidding. Like you were really, not that I doubted you, but it's one of those things where like, and I have a bit about it. Like, I did 2 open mics, and then I was telling everyone I was a comedian. So it's like, but you were actually like in it. You were doing it.
Yeah, I was going a lot.
Yeah.
Well, I lived so close, and it was so easy. And they had this rule at that club, like for the open mics, they would put the women first.
Oh, that's sweet.
Because they like the mics would go like for hours
Yeah.
until like 2 or 3 in the morning, and they would start at like 9 because there's like 80 comics in San Diego, and they just go to that one club every night. So they would put the women first so that like we weren't staying in like the gas lamp quarter all late at night, because it's pretty like,
That's smart. Yeah.
it can get dangerous there. But I lived on that street, so,
you were like, yeah,
it didn't
this
really
is-
matter for me.
Yeah. Danger. What danger?
Yeah.
I literally lived 2 doors down.
Exactly. But yeah, so I started doing comedy again there, like out in the real world. And
So what brought you to New
enjoyed
York?
it.
Comedy?
yeah, for the most part. I mean, I moved back to Jersey after my time at the hostel was over.
Is that where you're originally from?
Yeah. And I was
Jersey.
like, maybe I'll work in Jersey for the summer. Like, I live by the beach, so I really like summers there. But I spent like a week and a half at home, and I was like, I can't do this. So I just moved in with my friend from high school in the city, and it's been going really well.
Perfect. So
Yeah.
that's good to hear. I've had some people on where, like me, they're like, oh no, comedy's what I was destined to do. And then I've had other people on, literally I've had guests on where they're like, well, I really wanted attention and music was hard. So I realized I could go to open mics and get on stage. And I was like, and they're very successful. And I'm like, are
Yeah.
you fucking kidding
People
me,
are just
man?
forced to listen to them. So
Yeah,
they're
and
like,
they're like,
all right, sign me up.
This is awesome. And then because they don't like, they're just super silly all the time, because to them it doesn't almost mean anything. And then
Yeah.
they end up becoming successful because that's what people want to see. And I was just like, so it's cool because you knew at a young age, you were like, oh, I want to keep doing this.
Yeah.
So let's go back, because you do have an interesting upbringing. You do talk about it on stage, so I don't feel bad bringing it up. You two are a fraternal twin.
Yes,
Like I am.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, my twin sister Hannah. Shout out Hannah. I know
Hannah.
she's listening. But you have a twin brother,
I do. Nicholas.
Nicholas. Shouts out Nick. What's up, Nick? So when you and your brother were coming up, I don't know if you want to talk about it or not, but I know you talk about it on stage. You have 2 moms, and then your brother's gay.
Yes.
So was that interesting for you? Difficult? Was it foreign for your parents? Because obviously you're dating Greg. You're the straight person in the household.
I'm the black sheep for
Yeah.
sure.
Which is just an ironic way of saying it. And I mean, it's not ironic in 2023, but 30 years ago, if you would have been like, yeah, I'm straight and I have a boyfriend and things are going really well.
My family is like, what's wrong with you? Everybody would be like, what are you talking about? No, I mean, like, I just grew up in a very loving household. I
Yeah.
feel like that's the only, I don't know, that's the only way I can describe it. Like, 2 women, everyone in my family is a Cancer zodiac sign.
What does that mean?
So we're like super sensitive and like
Okay.
emotionally intelligent
There you
and like
go. Get some.
homebody, cozy people. So like all 4 of us are just kind of like, yeah, we like to like all hang out and be cozy and watch movies and like talk about things
Aw,
together.
that's super sweet.
So it was a very loving household, and my parents are like super supportive of both of us. But yeah, my brother, like, growing up, we like knew he was probably gay, but he didn't like come out until like the end of high school, so it was never like
Were your parents stoked?
a thing. Yeah. They were pretty happy. They had been waiting for me like all high school to like tell them I was gay. They like always asked me about like my girlfriends, and then
Like just your friends? And they'd be
yeah.
like, what's going on with?
Yeah, with Gabby and Gianna, and I'm like, literally nothing. And then I would date like a twig boy, and they were like, this is what you like? You have that beautiful woman over every day, and like,
like
this
that
is
scene
who
in
you're,
Black
this
Panther.
string bean.
This is your king?
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like, it doesn't really feel like, I don't know what it feels like to not have that family dynamic. So
Yeah.
to me, it's just like
Just normal.
cool and
Yeah.
normal. And they're
So-
awesome.
When are you into partying, like getting crazy?
Oh, yeah.
Well, the reason I ask is because of what you just described about being a homebody and cozy and stuff. And then when I'd asked you to come on the show, you just laughed and you're like, oh, well, I got some stories. So then I was kind of like, all right, well, let's see where this goes.
Yeah.
So were you, like, when did you start drinking? originally?
My first drinking party that I went to was when I was 17 in high school. So kind of a late bloomer, I guess.
It's so weird. I just want to aside. I started drinking at 17 as well as a senior in high school. Like I drank a couple times, and then I really didn't start getting after until I was in college, maybe a little bit before. But I do find it fascinating that there are some people I've had on the show, and they go, I started drinking around like 13, 14, like a normal person. And I'm like, that's not
normal person.
And then I've had people on who haven't had a drink until they were like 21.
Yeah,
and then
like
they
a rule
went
follower.
and then they just went all in at 21. And I was like, oh, that's crazy. So you and I, look at that. We're twins.
Yeah,
we both started
17.
drinking late.
It was at a Halloween party for me.
Okay.
My friend's dad was out of town, so we
Yes,
all
how it
decided to throw a
works.
Halloween party. And then the next day, she was like,
This is in Jersey?
yeah.
Big house, small house,
It
ton
was
of people?
like a 1-floor, like 3-bedroom house, like medium sized, but it was not a ton of people. It was
Okay.
like all the other like kids who didn't really like wanted to start partying, but like weren't like cool and weren't getting invited to the parties.
Were you popular in high school?
No. No. Are you kidding me? No. I was so weird. I did like theater and I was like super academic. Like my twin brother and I graduated number 1 and number 2 in our class. Like
was
we
number
were
1?
like nerds. He was the number 1.
God damn it.
He always beats me.
Every time.
Everything. But like we were
Did you guys do like a dual valedictorian speech?
well, he gave his speech first and then I gave mine.
Okay.
And his was like kind of serious and mine was like funny and it was like good duality.
That's good, yeah.
But yeah, we were not.
Was he popular?
No, I mean, no one like really like everybody liked us.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like we were like weird or.
Did you go to a
like,
big high school?
I don't know. It
Well,
had
like-
like 350 people
So
per
no.
class. So no, I guess no.
Well, per class. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
that's like a medium size.
Yeah.
Yeah, because mine was 3,700 kids by
In
the
total?
time I was a senior in total. Yeah, we had like 529 in our graduating class, but the classes behind us had obviously you have more when you come in as a freshman, and then people drop out, transfer, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I went to. In the state of Florida, I went to one of the biggest population schools in the state.
Oh wow.
So that's why I asked, because it's interesting when you go to bigger schools like that, they're almost like their own cities. So I have had people reach out about the podcast, like, oh, we went to high school together. And I'm
You're
like,
like,
I
who the
have
fuck
no
are
idea.
you?
And I wasn't popular per se. Like I got bullied a lot and picked on and stuff. But I was around, because I played football, I was around the people who were quote unquote popular. And my, so I could see the dynamic, and I was just like we have a Facebook group, because that's how old I am. It's the Facebook group for like the class reunions and stuff, like the 2006 Spruce Creek High School Facebook group, and people post in that, and I'm just like, who the fuck is
no
this?
clue. No clue.
So at your school, because it's still a pretty big size. So was it similar to that, where it's like there was just so many people that you really couldn't keep track?
Yeah, there were like people I didn't know just because. Yeah, like I was very focused on like
Academia.
class and like theater and like artistic stuff.
Yeah.
And so I didn't really know many of the people who were in other types of classes or who like did other like sports and stuff.
Is it weird to date Greg because he is so into sports?
He's such a sports
Yeah,
bro. No, I actually really like it. Like I'm getting into it. I
Yeah.
kind of like putting on my like sports persona when I'm with him.
Do you have a whole character that you do?
Yeah, like we've been watching Eagles games. Like we went to an Eagles game together, and then their bar next to my apartment is an Eagles bar. So they
Oh
play the
wow,
game.
that works out perfect for
So
him.
we've seen that a couple times, and like I'm like so, like I just mold in with like everybody's reactions around me. Like
So
the
everyone's
second
like, oh, you're
someone's
like, what the fuck, man?
yeah, someone's like, fuck the ref. And I'm like, what an idiot. Like, I get so into it. And he's like, you have no idea what's going on.
It's good you
but-
play along.
Yeah,
That's
it's
your
really
theater
fun.
background coming
yeah,
out to
and I
life.
like it. I'm like, it's like fun to pretend to care so deeply about something.
Well, it is interesting because I do have a sports podcast as well, and that's one of our big things is. No, not. I don't. Joe listens, my co-host on that. So I don't want to say nobody listens, but we don't have a ton of listeners. But our big thing that we always talk about is how important sports are for certain people, which is true because sports is one of the only things where you can walk into a bar and you can see people who have nothing in common.
Yeah, and just
at
talk.
all.
It amazes me every time I see Greg do it. I'm
Yeah.
like, you just had a 25-minute conversation with this random person.
I mean, it's helped me a lot in comedy because I'll run into people at bigger comics at clubs and stuff. And if I know they like sports, I'm like, all right, I'm in. Like I tell the story all the time about when the first time I met Bill Burr in person, and I was standing like 6 feet away from him at the bar because I was like, I'm too nervous to introduce myself. And then he was talking to Paul Verzi, and he said something, and I chuckled. And he turns and he goes, "Are you going to join the conversation or just stand over there?"
Eavesdrop.
He literally said, "Are you going to join the conversation or just stand over there like a fucking creep?"
That's
and I was
hilarious.
like, "Oh, I didn't want to interrupt." And he was like, "Well, you're interrupting now." And that's just his way of, but like, it was, to me, like, some people are like, "Oh, that's so sad." I go, "No, that's Bill. Like, that's the best thing that could have happened."
Exactly. Like, he's making fun of you.
Yeah,
What more
which
could
is
you ask for?
fucking awesome. But the very first thing I said is, he goes, "Are you a comic?" And I said, "Yeah, my name is Brennan. I moved here from Florida, where I played college football, because I know him and Verzi are both into football." And then boom, instantly it was, "You played
instant
college
connection.
football in Florida?" And I was like, "Yeah." And so it is super cool, and I love the fact that you dump yourself into it, where you're just like, "Yeah, fuck off."
Yeah, I get so into it.
Have you become more like aware of the rules and stuff like that?
Like somewhat. Like I'll like be like, "Oh, does that mean they have like one more try?" And he's like, "Yeah, good job." And I'm like, "Oh, this is the last quarter." Like, very basic rules. But we also went to a basketball game.
I saw that. Yeah.
And I'm just like astounded by how like patriotic sports are.
Oh yeah.
Like,
It's one of the only countries in the world where it's like that.
yeah, I'm like, we're all from the United States of America.
Well, in basketball, that's not necessarily always true.
Oh yeah, I mean they have like players from other places, but like we all represent
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
like the USA, and we're still like, I don't know, bringing out like a guy who's a 76ers fan because he's like a veteran of some sort. And like,
there's a lot of like stand for the veterans. They play the national anthem before every game, and all
like
that
the
kind of stuff.
mascot is named after Ben Franklin. I don't know.
Yeah, especially for the Philadelphia 76ers.
Yeah, like their whole thing is America.
Their logo is the Liberty Bell.
Yeah.
Like the cracked Liberty Bell.
Yeah, it's very interesting because like, I don't know, like I feel like for women, like the equivalent of like what we can talk about without knowing each other really is like the Real Housewives.
Yeah.
Like
That's
all
your
of my
sports.
friends have seen like every season, every city, like we know it all, and it's like, okay, we can always chime in for that, and there's like nothing like patriotic or important about that type of stuff. It's not rooted in anything like, I don't know.
Well, and that's
serious.
also, it's hilarious that you bring that up because I was doing those, Hannah Berner does the TikToks, the Hannah on the Street, and I was doing those for a while. And people would just come up randomly and start talking to her about Bravo because she was on that network. And she knows, like, she personally knows a lot of the people, but she also watches the product. Like, she likes the shows. So it's like people would come up and be like, "Oh my God, so and so," and she'd be like, "Oh my God, like you're not gonna
Like,
believe."
don't get me started.
Yeah, and I'm like, "What is happening?" And I'm trying to do that thing because I'm like, like if we were talking and then someone came in and interrupted and started doing that, I'm doing the like,
Yeah, like, yeah.
like how you are with Greg
making
and sports.
responsive noises.
Yeah, like totally. Like, can you believe?
Oh, that was wild.
The only one I did get was because she was doing football commercials with Dak Prescott was the woman who flipped the table. So they said something about her, and I go, "Oh yeah, the one who flipped the table," and they were like, "Yeah," and I was like, "Cool, I'm a part of this. I'm in it."
Yeah, there's been multiple table flippers in that
Has there?
universe. Yes.
That's nuts. Let's get back to it. So the Halloween party, this is the first time you drank.
Oh yeah, my friend who hosts the party, she's like super hungover, and me and my brother, like the next morning, we're about to leave. We have like Gatorade and like Advil and shit for her because like nobody was home. Like she was by herself. Like,
Yeah.
She literally like fell asleep, like head in the toilet. So
I wanted to ask how you guys got there though, because you said not too many people showed up. It was basically everyone who kind of wanted to party but wasn't in those party circles.
Yeah.
So what were you guys? Were you guys playing beer pong or doing shots or?
Oh,
because I'm
Shot
assuming not too many
City.
people know how to drink at this point.
No, it was just a ridiculous amount of shots, and we were theater kids, so we were like singing
Yeah.
musical theater
Set the
songs
stage, yeah.
and like playing weird like charade games
Yeah?
and stuff. Like it was not like a cool party, but we had so
that
much
sounds
fun.
like fun,
And
though.
me and my friends, we all went as different statues, like sports trophies.
Okay.
So like we painted ourselves completely gold.
Wow.
And all 5 of us were completely gold, and we were a different like sports person. So like I was a cheerleader. We had like a swimmer.
Okay. So not actual people, but like you were representing different.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, not like real people, but like we were acting like we were trophies. So like when we all got like plastered because we didn't know how to drink, it
Yeah.
was like we're just like passed
paint
out in
everywhere.
various locations in gold paint, like not showering it off and like waking up like with streaks of it everywhere. So it was ridiculous. But my parents found out about the party because when we were like, oh, we're going to go see Julie, like she's a little, not feeling well this morning. And, her dad's not there. So we're going to just check on her. And they were like, she's hungover, isn't
Oh, wow.
she?
Really? So you went home. Did you go home that night?
We went home the next morning and then like checked on her like in the evening.
Okay. So by then your parents were like, oh, we know what's going
they
on.
were like, you can't.
Did you get in any sort of trouble?
No, they thought it was hilarious.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they don't care. Like they have always like they give us like good advice when we want to do like stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like they're just like, don't be idiots and you'll be okay. Like we also started like coming to New York City every year for New Year's Eve after that.
With your family or just you and your
with
brother?
my friends.
Okay.
And we got like fake IDs. We thought we were so cool. And then our parents like obviously found out about it. And my mom's just like, I got arrested one time for a fake ID. Like, just make sure you like have eyes and ears open. Like they didn't care. They were just like, please don't get in trouble.
That's super cool because there is the reason why I like that is because it's very much like we know we raised you properly. We know we raised you well. So we trust that you're going to make the right decisions. But we're just going to reinforce it by saying like, hey, don't be a fucking idiot.
Exactly. Yeah. I think also us being twins, like, helped a lot because we were going into every situation.
Because there's always another. Like if
like,
they
together,
lose you, they have. Oh,
yeah.
That's yeah.
Yeah, but also if I die from alcohol poisoning, no one gives a fuck. They still have Nicholas. Yeah,
But yeah, there's always someone there.
Yeah, we were always together. We could watch out for each other and stuff. So
yeah, see, that wasn't the case with me and my twin sister and I weren't really super close until I think it was like our senior year in high school. It's just I think I'm remembering this right, and she'll message me if I'm not. But it was just one day I remember like she was doing something or I was doing something, and then the other person was like, "Hey, do you want to do this with me?" And then from there we were like pretty tight. But I remember because I was always a loner kid, through no fault of anyone else's. It was just I was by myself a lot, and I just remember like my senior year, all of a sudden we were like close, and then it was weird because it was like, oh yeah, I have like this person that's the same age. We're going through a lot of the same stuff, and we live in the same house.
yeah, you can like automatically relate to them.
Yeah. So it is other than the being different genders. It was other than that it was like really like it was kind of cool because and I had a joke about it that I was doing for a while, but it's like people are always like, oh, a twin, that's so cool, and I always joke because I'm like, well, the only shitty part was the birthdays. Because you have to split everything. So like that was, and it was funny because we would always have like dual birthday parties, but she was the popular one.
So it's like all
it would
her
be
friends.
like 15 of her friends and then like 2 people I knew.
Oh,
and it was like,
did you get your own birthday cakes at least?
Yeah, we did
Okay,
most of
that's
the
good.
time. Most of the time, and then as we got older, obviously, in our like late teens and 20s.
Yeah, you can share better.
Yeah, at that point, they're just like, you get one fucking cake, all right?
Yeah, my brother and I always had the same parties because we always had the same friends.
Was he in theater and stuff too?
Yeah.
Okay.
He did like more sports than me, I guess. I wouldn't call the man athletic, but he tried
What
to
did he
do
play?
Sports. Like swimming.
He tried to do sports.
Yeah, he did swimming, so that's not really even like.
Yeah.
And I did swimming for a year.
Did you really?
But I also have a pacemaker.
Yeah. Oh my God, I forgot about that.
I
Yeah.
have some jokes about that. And the coaches, like when they found that out, they got like really nervous about me exerting myself. So they would let me like take breaks and stuff during practice. And like I could just be like, oh, like I think like my heart feels like it might like explode. Like, can I go sit on the bleacher? And they would just be like, sure. And like, that's not how it works.
No,
like,
not in sports. That's what I was gonna say. They're like, we're gonna make you all swim until you puke. Except Jack, if you're not feeling it, you can go sit down if you want.
Yeah. So I really milked that.
What year was that?
Situation.
I'd assume
I was like a
sophomore.
Yeah, in high school.
So what? Let's go back to the pace because I forgot you talked about it on stage, but I did forget. What happened?
I was 5 years old and I just went for like a routine checkup, and she was listening to my heart, and the pattern was like off,
like
and it
an
was
arrhythmia?
beating, really slowly. And so they immediately sent me in for like emergency surgery to get a pacemaker.
Oh, so they didn't even ask questions. They were just like,
no,
this
they
is
were
bad.
like, yeah. And my parents, they were, because afterwards the doctors were like, have you ever noticed like she's like really tired or whatever? And my parents were like, we just thought she was lazy. Because like I always needed them to like carry me and like put me in like the stroller and like and I'm like, no, I wasn't lazy, Mom. Like I was slowly dying. And you just thought I was lazy. But yeah, hilarious. I think that's funny.
Yeah, obviously. So the Halloween party was the first time you drank. Now, after that, were you like drinking all the time, or were you like, how did that end up going?
Not really. Like still senior year, my friends and I just kind of like experimented with like partying and drinking and stuff. Like we did New Year's Eve in the city, and we like actually.
That was that same year.
Yeah, So the
like
apartment
3 months later.
Yeah, so one of my friends, her family had an apartment in New York City. So
that always blows my mind when people have that.
Because they moved to the shore like for her high school or whatever.
But like I know how much I pay in rent, and that'd be insane to just be like, oh yeah, I just have a spot in the city.
Well, it's super cool. Like her dad kind of like low key squatted in that apartment like in the 70s, and then turned it into like a film studio.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah, it was like awesome. So they have had it for a really long time. And so we would go there to just like hang out, and we went our senior year for New Year's Eve, and we heard the upstairs neighbors like having a party, and we were like, obviously like we were like kind of trying to go out to bars with their IDs, but it wasn't like
after what your parents told you, you're like, maybe it's not worth it.
We weren't like feeling like super confident about it that evening. So we were back in her apartment.
Is this actual New Year's Eve that day? Okay.
So we're back in her apartment just like drinking, and we hear the party upstairs. So we go and we bring like strawberry lemonade Svedka, like screams, I'm 17 years old. And we knock on these people's door, and we're like, we're your neighbors. Like, can we come in? And they're like all in their 30s, like professionals, like drunk off their minds, and they're like, yeah, come in. So we just like end up partying with these like 30-year-olds for the night, and it was so fun.
Anybody throw up?
No, not that year.
Good.
Yeah, thank God. Because we were kind of like, like we were a little nervous that they were going to find out how old we were and like kick us out or whatever. So we were like really lying hard. Like we had entire backstories about like where we went to college.
Really?
And like what we were doing now with our lives.
Do you remember your backstory? Where did you go to college?
I had already gotten into Wesleyan by that point.
Yeah,
so
I'm saying in your backstory, you said.
Yeah, so I said I went to Wesleyan.
Okay.
And my other friends were making up like more extreme lies. Like they're like, oh yeah, I went to Columbia. I'm like,
You really want to play that card?
Yeah, I'm like, they're gonna start asking you some intellectual questions.
You're gonna get caught. You're gonna get caught in like
I don't think you're gonna.
Oh, would you major
up.
in economics?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting. I do trading. What do you think? And you're like, fuck.
Yeah, no. So
this happens, and then do you make that a tradition, the New Year's Eve thing?
Oh yeah, we did it up until like a good amount of my college, like for a good amount of my college years.
Okay.
We also went to New York City for New Year's.
Same friend, same apartment?
Same friend group, same apartment, always getting into something.
Did you ever go back upstairs?
No.
Really?
Yeah. I think those neighbors moved.
Okay. Well, and it's also interesting because you said they were like professional people who were all drunk off their ass. And that's the thing I've learned working in like nicer steakhouses, and I'm sure you see it all the time at the club that you work at. You get these people where they're only like they go off the rails like maybe 2 or 3 times a week, but it's like especially on the weekend, it's like this is our time to get fucked up.
It's like you work so hard during the week so that the payoff is just to like
getting hammered,
forget everything.
So do you have to deal with that a lot, especially at the club?
I mean, the worst part is like when people are drunk during like a show.
Yeah. So what is the rule there? Because I've heard different comics tell me different things that are passed there. So correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the server will come up to you. Like if you're being ridiculous, obviously the comic on stage will address it.
Yeah.
And then as they're addressing it, a lot of times the server will come up and go, hey, like cut it out. And then by the second, I heard there's no bullshit at that club.
No.
By the second time, the gigantic bouncers are like, you're leaving.
If you are like really yelling out and interrupting, like the manager will come or the security and ask you to leave.
Have you ever, as someone who does comedy and then works at a comedy club, have you ever gone up to like the bouncers and been like, that guy's going to be a problem?
I don't know. Like I've been able to like stake out like maybe I should be like suspicious of this person like throughout the night, or like I want to try to ignore them for after I give them their first drink for as long as possible, because I don't want them to ask for like
another drink,
a bunch of rounds, because we also have like a drink maximum. But like it's kind of awkward to be like, actually you're not allowed to drink anymore.
That is a weird thing.
And people get like angry about it. And like I had one guy one time ask me like, oh, can they pay for it? Like, point of the people sitting across from him, like, can they pay for it and I'll Venmo them so that nobody knows? Like and I was like, no.
You might need to go to a meeting, sir. Like that sounds like a problem.
You're just gonna like offer these other people to pay for you, and they looked at him and they were like, "What the fuck? No!" But yeah, I mean, I've had people like, I've mostly have good luck with my people, but I did have one time. It was a group of old lesbians and their daughter, who were the worst to me, and the daughter was so drunk, screaming out. I was like, "Can you please leave?" And then they like.
So wait, you didn't even like give a hey, quiet down. You just walked up.
We were like quieting them, and then they were like being annoying about it, and then they were being annoying about like reaching the minimum. So I was just like.
Wait, they didn't even. They were already drunk, but they didn't want to reach the minimum.
No, I think they got there like
hammered.
Yeah. So then the daughter was just like really bossing these 3 old lesbians around. I was like, "Where's your backbone?"
My parents would not let this happen.
Yeah, I was like, "What?" Like, and when I got them as a table, I was kind of like excited. I was like, "Oh, my people!" Like, I feel comfortable. But they were the worst to me. So I've only had like really that one time where one of my tables has had to leave.
Did they leave?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not without a fight.
That is the one thing though about the club that you work at that's different than, because I do the hang at like so many different places, mainly the stand, but there's no security. Like the stand has one of the managers is like a bigger dude, so it's like, all right, and the managers there have no problem being like, hey, you're out of here, but they don't have like a very intimidating presence.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because the club you work at, it's like giants.
Yeah, we're real fucking deals.
Yeah. Well, and it's the same thing at Gotham, because Gotham, like I joke all the time, but it used to be like a mob hangout. So like it's all ex-cops that work there and stuff, and they've got earpieces and suits. So like if you fucking say something, they'll drag you out and they'll accidentally bash your head into the door as they're taking you.
Yeah. I love our security guys. They look out for us.
Yeah.
It's nice to have them. But
well, and
people
especially
just
because the
feel
area
like,
that it's in, there's so many people who are so sketchy as shit.
And people feel like when they go to a comedy show, like it can be about them.
Yeah.
They're like,
I just had this conversation with another comic.
Like when they scream out, they're like, "You're not letting me be me," and it's like nobody cares about who you are. Like you're not the comedian.
I just had this conversation and I've talked about it on here before, but this whole culture of we have to post clips, like that's our job, is to post clips, which is all well and good, but a lot of times you don't want to burn material, so you end up posting crowd work. Yeah. Because that's just something you can keep posting and posting and posting, like destroys heckler, kills heckler, heckler, dies, blah blah blah. But then millions and millions of people see that.
And they feel like you want the heckler.
And then they go, oh, this is an interactive show. I'm supposed to shout out. I'm helping the show by shouting out. And it's like, no.
There's a comic, Jeff R. Curry, who posts like a lot of crowd work. Jeff, and I like his because it's never like hecklers. It's like he's asking people the pointed questions. Yeah. And just seeing where it goes, and I feel like that's a lot smarter. Yeah, because for your brand too, because like if people feel like they can just yell out and try to shit on you, like they're gonna really try to be the ones who beat you too. Like people get like competitive about it.
Well, because I've seen it too, and just as a person who attends a lot of shows, like I go to a lot of shows because I genuinely love comedy, so I'll go to shows all the time, and it doesn't matter whether it's a show at like the Cellar or the Stand or Gotham, or if it's a show at a bar that my friends are running and I go to support. it seems like 1 out of every 5 times there is that person who's like, no, we're going to make this about me, even though I'm in the crowd. And sometimes the comics will just keep going with them. And I don't know if this happens to you, but as someone who performs, I get that feeling in the pit of my stomach where I'm like, just move on. Like, just stop. Yeah. Stop interacting with that. Like, what are you doing?
There's some comics where I feel like they like it.
Yeah.
Like, they get, like, a little fire under them when they can interact. And there's some comics where, like, their shtick really works for that, like, being an asshole to, like, the heckler.
Yeah, that's true.
I feel like if it was me, I would be like, please leave.
Please stop
Please. I have these jokes that I practiced, and now no one's going to hear them.
I really want to do them.
Like, come on. Yeah, but I don't know. I always, it does make me cringe when I see it a little.
Absolutely. Well, let's get back into high school. You start drinking at 17, and then you end up at Wesleyan. Now, when you get there as a freshman, are you living on campus? I'm not sure
you live on campus all 4 years at Wesleyan.
Oh, really? So when you get there, is it like immediately like, I'm ready to party, or are you still focused on grades like you were in high school?
I mean, I was focused on my grades, but I definitely like let some of my standards for myself slip. Yeah. Like, I had this one class on a Friday that was at like 10:50 in the morning, which I was like, that's not that early. Yeah. And then I started going out every Thursday, and I was late every
Oh, so you still
Friday.
went, but you were late.
I still went because I didn't want to like fail the class, because attendance is like a really big thing at that school.
See, I never understood that.
Like, small classes. It's all like little teeny forums and discussions and stuff. So you have to show up to talk about like the readings and get
because I went to school. I went to a public school, FAU. Oh, go Owls. But it's a public university in Florida. And I had some professors, especially like at the higher level courses, they were like, listen, you're paying for this class. This is so you can graduate. Yeah. Like, come or don't come. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, they're like, it's your money / your parents' money / the government's money.
The government's money. Yeah.
Like, do what you want with it.
Yeah, they were like, who cares? Like, I don't care. Like, if you don't show up, don't show up. And those were always the classes that I wanted to go to, because like, if you didn't show up, you were going to fail. And they were higher level courses in my major, so I was very interested in what we were talking about. But then I would have prerequisite classes with like 300 kids, and they would take attendance every day. And I'm like, there's 400 people in here.
Yeah, like, why do you care? Like, Nobody cares about this class.
Yeah, and so... But they were like, oh, this is... And my problem was I took a lot of the higher level courses early when I was playing football, because they would just... Because I liked it. I liked my major. So they were like, oh, well, because you're on the team, you get first dibs at classes. And so I would just sign up for like the 3,000 and 4,000 level courses as a freshman and a sophomore. So then by the time I'm a senior, I'm an alcoholic.
All, like, the dumb classes.
I had to take all these fucking, and I'm like, I'm 21. Like, I'm about to graduate. Like, why am I?
Adult. You can't tell me what to do anymore.
But there were ones where it's like, literally, I had this one writing class where they handed out like a case study or an essay or something, and they were like, find the thesis, find this, find that.
This is high school
and
stuff.
I had already written a dissertation at that point. Like, I had written like a bunch of like big, heavy works. Yeah. Just for classes and stuff, like case studies and all this kind of shit. So then when I get this, I was just like they were like, oh, that's not actually the thesis. Maybe you should look. And I'm like, I don't fucking know. Like,
I wrote a thesis. Yeah. I think I know what a thesis is.
So when you get there, it's a smaller college. So you're like, oh, I have to go. Yeah.
You kind of have to be on your shit. But that was the one class where I just wasn't. But I did quickly become, like, on my freshman hall, like, the one who everyone was knocking on my door, like, every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, like, Jaclyn, where are the parties? Like, what's going on? And I don't know, like, how I got that reputation.
You don't? So it was just kind of like there wasn't like a big party where you kind of shown up, or
like
anything?
I just kind of like quickly met older people, or people who like knew people who went to the school already. So I kind of had
How did you meet those
information.
People? How did that happen?
Just like being a cool girl. I don't remember. I think like orientation, like
Well, the reason I ask is because there's always that thing where, and it happens to me post college life, but like I know certain comics, and then like I'll go to an open mic and people are like, "How the fuck do you know Emma? Like, how did you get Emma Willman on your pod?" And I go, "Well, she's a friend."
Yeah, and you're like, just talking.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Person. It's like I'm like I don't like we just became friends. Like I can't pinpoint like one time.
Yeah, I can't pinpoint how I became that girl on my hall, but I did.
Girl.
I was that girl. But like freshman year, sophomore year, well, my freshman year, I like partied and I joined like a sorority, which was really shocking for me. And it was like a liberal arts college, so there was one sorority.
Oh, really?
And I really just went because my like best friend wanted to rush, and so I was like, I'll go to the events with you, like get free alcohol.
Yeah. Did you end up rushing?
And then I like technically, yeah, because I was going to all the events and stuff. So they were like, "Oh yeah, this bitch has been at like all the mixers." So I got accepted, and I was like, "Holy shit!" And then
What's up now?
Yeah, and then I was in the sorority, and like pledging was really fun because like I'm a big like games person, and like we were just playing games all the time, like doing like embarrassing stuff, and I have zero shame, so I never like.
Well, and you're younger than me, so was this at the time where you couldn't do any of the harsh stuff anymore?
Yeah, I mean,
like
I also
stuff?
went to like a liberal college, so
Yeah,
it was
true,
like nobody really wanted to get canceled or anything anyways, so we would just do like fun, like games or like wine Olympics or scavenger hunts and stuff. But
I remember my ex-fiance, she was in a sorority, and I remember their thing, like for the pledges, was no drinking or partying. They like went the other way with it.
Oh, really?
Because people are so like, oh, I'm a freshman in college, I want to party. Yeah. So their way to like test your will and your merit,
like how much you wanted to be in the sorority, was taking away the fun.
The one thing that was super fun about
dumb.
it. But it was also interesting because then when they would join the sorority, then they would end up all getting like alcohol poisoning because they were like so ready
they're making
to, like,
up for the lost time.
Yeah, and so they were like, let's fucking go now. And you'd show up to a party and they're like falling over themselves, and you're like, oh boy, like this.
I was so embarrassing at all of the sorority parties. Oh my god, because I also wasn't really friends with anyone in it, so I would just bring like my dumb friends with me.
Oh, you bring them to like,
and I would bring everybody else, and like we would just be menaces, like finish these girls' bottles, like drink everything they had, fall down their stairs. Like we were always, and my friends were like, I stayed in the sorority literally so me and my friends could have like places to party.
Oh,
and
really? Yeah, no, I mean, that's smart.
I quit like after my sophomore year because I was just like, sophomore year I started to not even really like going out as much anymore. Like I just liked smoking with my roommate and like.
When did you start smoking?
Making videos. Also like senior year of high school.
Okay, so around the same time.
But yeah, we just got more into like being like weird and like making creative things in our room. Yeah. Than partying. But yeah, my biggest party phase actually was probably when I studied abroad.
Oh, I didn't even know you studied abroad.
Yeah, that's where my first little
that's
story
what I was
I
gonna
gave
ask.
you
The
was
breaking
from.
into the apartment?
Yeah.
So that's abroad. That's even better. Where are you?
So I studied abroad in Copenhagen in Denmark.
Junior year?
Mm-hmm, the fall. And in college, like for half of my freshman year and all of my sophomore year, I was in a relationship. Mm-hmm. And we broke up that summer. Thank God. And then,
was that because you were leaving?
It was a lot of reasons.
Okay. The way you said thank God.
Yeah, no, it was, yeah. I mean, we would have eventually broken up when I was abroad anyways, but thankfully ripped that Band-Aid off before I got there. But
so you guys break up summer of sophomore year?
Yes.
And then going into the fall of junior year, you sign up to be abroad.
I was finally single in college, and I was like, let's go.
Let's
like, I'm going to
do it.
Insane. And I was, because I was like pretty deeply insecure when it came to like men at that point, because I had no experience with like interacting with them in like that way or whatever.
So even growing up with a brother, you still were kind of foreign to.
Well, I mean, he's gay.
Like, well, the reason I bring it up is because I was raised around women. Like I have two sisters. I have an older brother, but he was moved out by the time I was like cognizant. And so I always joke around that people like I've had ex-girlfriends get upset because they're like, you're like always flirting. And I go, I'm not flirting. I just I communicate better with women. I'm more comfortable around women. And so I didn't know if that was a situation because you had a brother growing up. But obviously, like you said.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I feel like there's low stakes with like male friendship. So like when I'm like befriending a guy, like it's very easy. But the whole like navigating the like hookup or whatever dynamic with someone was a lot worse at that time for me, and I didn't know how to do it.
I'm 34 and it's hard for me.
Yeah,
like, now that I'm recently single, it's very much like, are we friends, or like, well, like if we hook up one time, it's like, are we gonna keep doing this?
And like,
or
what am I allowed to get mad about?
Yeah, what am I supposed to say?
Yeah, like, is it crazy if I like call you out on this? So like with this, so I'm studying abroad in Copenhagen. I have a guy roommate, Ufa, who was like my best friend there. And
did you know him before you got there?
No, he was German. He was studying in Denmark for 4 years. So we have this party where it's like all of the apartment buildings in our complex, like each floor, one of the apartments has a different part of like a larger theme. So the theme was life. So we were floor number 1. So our room was birth.
Yeah.
So we like decorated our apartment to
really
look
cool.
like a uterus. Like we put like red wrapping paper all over the place. Ufa wore like a hat that was like a sperm. Like it was like a really long sperm hat.
That's a fucking genius idea.
Yeah,
you get everyone involved.
We made like our doorway a vagina.
There
So when the party started, everybody was just like standing in our apartment, and Ufa like bust in as the sperm into the vagina. But yeah, so we were having this party and his friend was visiting him. So his friend was staying with him, and that was who
staying with you.
Yeah.
As your roommates.
Yeah. And we were like, canoodling, I guess. And so he was like at this party with us, and the whole time it was like, we're hanging out, this and that, and then we get to like the last floor, which was death.
So is everyone going together? Like moving from floor to floor?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So then it's the death floor, and it's like pitch black in this place, and like everybody's like extremely intoxicated.
I was gonna say, by this point you're on the last level.
Yeah. And he starts like talking to this like little blonde bitch, and I was like,
fuck no.
What's going on? But I was trying to like keep my cool, I'm like, you're fine, Jaclyn, like whatever.
Don't say anything. Don't say anything.
Yeah, but like I was like so jealous over this person I like barely knew, just because I was like, it was like a ego thing.
Yeah.
Like I was like, if he leaves with somebody else, even though like we were like together the whole night, it's like I'm like,
yeah, that can be
boring or not like hot enough or whatever.
Take it. Your ego can. I mean, I've been in that situation 1,000 times where you start to talk to someone at a party, especially in college, at a party, and then like a bigger, badder, more in shape football player comes in, and then they just leave you to go talk to them,
like,
and
okay,
you're like,
fuck off. I was gonna be awesome. But yeah,
I can be cool too, you guys.
Yeah, so I'm like trying to act like I don't give a fuck, and then I like turn around, he's gone. Nowhere to be seen.
That's the problem with trying to act cool.
I know.
Sometimes people are like, oh, they're so cool, I'm gonna get out of here.
Yeah, so like I'm whatever. So he's nowhere to be seen, and neither is this like blonde girl, right? And so like I said, we were going to all these people's like apartments throughout the night. So she hosted one of them, so I knew like where she lived.
What
It was the 3rd floor.
So what was that, like teenage years?
Yeah, they did like a really lame theme. Obviously, no,
fucking losers.
Theirs was fine. Yeah, it was like the teenage years. But so I'm like drunk and in a rage, and I can't find him.
Is your roommate, your friend, is he like trying to calm you down, or does he not even know?
No, he was like, who knows where he went? Like, la la.
I wish he was like gassing you up.
He's probably
like, yeah,
drunk
fuck him.
somewhere, like whatever. And he was also like preoccupied with other stuff.
Yeah.
But like my 2 like girlfriends that were there, they were like with me. And
were these friends from Copenhagen or friends you knew from
yeah,
Leslie?
from Copenhagen. And we're still like really close. I hung out with them yesterday.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, but they were there, and they're like trying to calm me down and be like, it's not a big deal. Like maybe he's just like,
talking.
Went somewhere, like got food, like who knows? So I'm like searching the whole apartment complex for him. We can't find him. I'm like getting in a rage.
I also, just real quick side note, I hate when people do that. Like, you don't know. Maybe they just went to do, and it's like, no, I fucking know.
Like I
do
know that he's sleeping with this bitch. So I go to her apartment. Like I'm just gonna go to her apartment. Like I'm just gonna go and I'm gonna see if he's there, because I know that he's there, and I'm just gonna see if he's there. And my one friend is like, please don't do that. That's so crazy. Like please don't do that. And my other friend was like, she's gonna do it. So like. Whatever, just fucking do it. Let us know if he's there. And so I go, and I'm like banging on her door, and like finally like one of the roommates like comes in or like opens the door, and she's like, who the fuck are you? And I just like bust
just
into
break
the
in.
apartment. I just like bust into the apartment and I'm like screaming his name and I'm like, is he here? Like a crazy person. And she was like, I don't know who the fuck you're talking about. And I was like, one of your roommates didn't bring over like a boy. And she was like, no.
Oh no.
So I'm like, okay. And then I feel like an idiot and I go to my apartment.
And he's there.
And I go in my apartment and I'm like, so I'm so dumb. And he's on my balcony vomiting over the side of my balcony.
Had he been there the whole time?
Yeah.
So your friend ended up being right. They just both happened to leave around the same time. Oh my god.
And he was like, and meanwhile I was like rage texting him. I'm like, yeah, you're like a hoe, this and that. And he doesn't really speak, like he's German, like English isn't his first language. And he's like, why are you calling me a hoe? Like, isn't that a bad thing?
So he's puking over the side, has no idea that you're this upset.
And I was like, I'm sorry. Like, I thought you left with that, like, little, like, blonde woman. And he was like, no. Like, what? Like, I went to the party with you. Like, I wasn't going to leave with someone else. Yeah, he's like being so nice about it. And I was like, yeah, wow, that was actually insane of me. It was probably, like, I think, like, I would never want to stoop that low again in the insanity of my thoughts.
So do you, I want to ask, this is kind of personal, but we try to get into stuff. Are you still that jealousy kind of rage monster? Does that still linger in you?
Not really. Like,
Okay.
I've gotten better at just realizing when it's not, like, worth my time or energy.
So you've discovered your own value where you're like, oh, this isn't.
Yeah. Like,
It took me a long time to figure that out because I've, like, the relationship I just got out of, it was very much where I was just like, oh, neither of us are, I guess, like, we're not really in this anymore. So why don't we just move on? Like, it doesn't make sense to keep like I'll talk to people and they're like, yeah, we're going to counseling. It's like, you guys have only dated for like a year.
Yeah,
like,
you don't need counseling.
Yeah, just get out. Like, what's happening? And so it's interesting because you, like you were just saying, you've discovered this and you're still in your 20s and you've been able to be like, oh no, I know kind of what my worth is.
Yeah,
so it's not.
I'm a big fan of like publicly shaming men now.
Yeah? Like Game of Thrones style?
Yeah, like in senior year in high school, like, or not high school, college, like going in the dining hall, like just marching up.
Is this
to the
something that
guy.
happened?
Yeah. I just marched up to this boy with all of his friends and I was like, we need to talk. And his friends were like, and then, or like, I don't know. I, at one of the hostels, like broke things off with this guy because he invited me to his friend's birthday party after like not really talking to me for like a while, and it was just like down the street was the birthday party. So I knew the only reason I was invited was because it was close and convenient, and he like didn't really care about seeing me. So I like got off my shift, I like got all nice, I like put on lipstick, and I went to the party, and I just like broke things off with him and then left and went home. Like, and I was like, now I'm going to a club with my friends, so bye. And then I literally just went home and smoked weed in my like
awesome.
cute outfit. But yeah, I'm not really jealous anymore. I mean, like, I work with Greg, like my boyfriend, and I see people flirt with him all the time, like his like customers, and I just think it's funny.
Yeah. I like to think that it's weird because I have this weird line, like we were talking about earlier, like what are we, how, so like if I'm just talking to like different people, I honestly don't give a shit like what they're doing. The second I become exclusive with someone, I like turn into the fucking Hulk. I'm like, who the fuck is that?
Yeah.
Who's texting you? Who's calling? Literally, I've been in situations before where like especially in college where you're talking to like different people, and then all of a sudden I had a girlfriend, like we ended up becoming like just her and I like flipped, and she's like, who the fuck is this person?
Yeah.
Like, this wasn't the person that I thought I was getting when I asked you to date. And it's like, well, we're together now, so now there's gonna be some changes.
Yeah. This is boyfriend Brennan.
Bum, bum, bum. So I wanted to ask, because you've traveled a lot, so you went out, you did have a story about LA. When did you go out there?
That was the summer before I studied abroad.
Okay.
I was there for like an internship.
What film production? What were you
Yeah,
doing?
it was like a film editing internship. So I was editing videos for beauty influencers, which was super interesting. Yeah, no, I was like, I should know how to like take care of myself and like have a skincare routine and like do makeup after watching these videos every day for 3 months, but I
nothing.
like literally absorbed none of it. None of it. But I really just wanted to be in LA because
Were
like,
you in the comedy group at this point?
Yes.
So when you got to LA, were you even thinking about maybe doing some comedy while you were out
I
there?
did an improv class with my
Okay.
best friend who was also there.
Okay.
Because, like, she was going to live in LA, and I was like, that just sounds like a fun summer. So I got that internship just to have a reason to go there.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then, yeah, we did, like, an improv class. We were doing, like, open mics together. And that was really cool. But I thought I would, like, want to move to LA when I graduated college, but...
What was
not anymore.
Yeah, it's always one of those weird things where it's like New York or LA, New York or LA.
Yeah, I feel like when you're younger, New York is definitely the way to go.
Well, I had only ever been to New York once as a 14-year-old. With my family. We came up here for something. And then I went to LA my senior year. My dad took my sister and I out there for our senior trip. Like he would always take the kid, like whatever kid was a senior, he'd take them somewhere. And my dad was in sales, so he always was in New York or LA or like bigger cities, Chicago. So we wanted to go to LA, so that's what we did. And I remember being like, all right, LA's the place, I'm gonna move. Because been I've been in stand-up, like I started watching it when I was 12, and then I knew I wanted to do it when I was older. So I was like, all right, LA's the place, because I'm also gonna act. You know, I'm an actor.
Yeah.
And then I remember like the whole drunken time before I got sober and got back into stand-up, I was just like, oh, eventually I'm going to go to LA. And then I came to New York as an adult with Savannah, the first time I'd ever been here as an adult. And as soon as we got off the subway, I go, oh, no, it's New York.
Yeah.
Like, it's definitely New York.
I mean, my choice of it being New York was mostly just because, like, it was the easiest option.
Yeah, well, you live, you know.
I live from New Jersey. My family's close. I had, like, an apartment I can immediately move into.
Yeah.
So that's why I did it. But, like, living in LA when I was like 20 with like a fake job and like wanting to be a part of like the LA lifestyle, like I definitely felt like a cool girl.
Hell yeah.
And
so what happened with the going out and stuff in LA?
So we were only 20, so we had like fake IDs, and my one friend, my one friend, she didn't have one, so we would either give her mine or our other friends to use, and we would kind of like stagger when we just like went into the club, and it usually worked. And so the craziest time that we went out though was we went to like this Mexican like tequila karaoke bar.
Was this have you been there for a while? So you were kind of like, oh, I know LA, or was this when you first got there?
This is my first time at this place it was my last night in LA, and it was my first time at this random karaoke place.
But there's always that weird thing, and you know from traveling so much, there's always that weird thing when you first get to a place where you're kind of nervous.
Yeah.
And then like, you know, 6 months, 3 months, whatever in, you're like, oh, I know this place.
Yeah, I mean, we were like young and like really like naive, so we never thought anything bad could happen to us. Like I was never really
that
nervous.
Always blows my mind.
Yeah,
When I
like,
see drunk girls on the subway at like 3 a.m, I go,
I'm like, we are 3 underage women. Like,
who's watching you? Like, this is not a good idea.
And everything that happened to us that night, it was like set up for like something really bad to happen to us, because we were at this bar and like,
so it's the Mexican karaoke bar,
and they give you the like, if you order a margarita, it's like a huge ass like bowl
fishbowl,
that's for like 4 people. But we meet this guy at the bar, and he's like, you know, obviously being weird and like wanting to buy us drinks, and so he buys me and my 2 friends like each of our own bowls. And then he like gets the bill, and he's like, Jesus fuck. And then he shows us his tattoo on his arm, and he's like, first of all, his tattoo on his arm is all of his 4 children's names. Okay. So he's like, I just got this tattoo today, and it costs less than these drinks I just bought you. And we were like, okay, sir, like, where the fuck are you getting your tattoos? Like, that's a you issue.
Well, not only that, if you say, hey, I'm gonna buy you a drink,
and then you get mad at the girls. Like, we didn't choose for you to get us our own like extreme big gulp of margarita. Like,
but you have to be on board. Fuck? Like, if you're gonna commit, you have to commit.
Yeah, and me and my friends in LA, we loved playing the game of like who can get the most free shit per night. So like it became a competition. That's when it got like really unhealthy for us. So we would so that
just
night,
doing things that you shouldn't be doing, but you're like, hey, I got all this free stuff.
Yeah, but we're like, but I won. Meanwhile, you're like half dead on the sidewalk. But yeah, so that night we're like getting really drunk off of those margaritas, and
so you're just drinking a whole fishbowl to yourself.
Yeah. So obviously we were gone. Like, just extremely plastered. And my two friends, they started like dry humping these Spanish guys in the bar, like aggressively
Ay, Dios mío.
making out with these two Spanish guys. And I'm just sitting there like watching them in horror because I'm like, this is explicit. Like, this should not be in public. And then this woman comes over and starts screaming at my friends, and she's like, this is disgusting. Like, this is a public place. Like, you guys need to get out of here.
So they were being really aggressive.
Mm-hmm. And my one friend, she just starts screaming back at the lady. And then again, this whole like argument. And the next thing I know, like, we're getting kicked out by the bouncers. Wow. And then my friend is also like screaming at the bouncers. And I was like, we have no place to be arguing here. Like, we are 20
if the cops
years
show
old.
Up, you're going to be in big trouble.
Yeah, I'm like, let's go.
Shut up.
I'm like somehow thinking clearly. And I like get us out of there, and the Spanish guys are with us, of course, still for some fucking reason. And
what do you mean for some reason? They were just humping these girls in there, so they're like, no, we're not leaving.
Yeah, they left with us, like the gentlemen they were, and they bring us like the parking garage that their car was in, and they're like trying to convince us to like go to their house. My friends are like, yeah, let's go. And I was like, absolutely fucking not. Are we getting in a car with these Spanish men? And so they're like really trying. My friends are being kind of like, oh, should we go? Should we not go? So crazy ass Jaclyn to scare off these Spanish dudes. I literally peed on their car.
Did you really? Bury the lead. You didn't tell me that. I'm glad you didn't. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what'd you do? You just got up
I was like, fuck you guys, and like pulled down my pants and peed on their car, and they're like, what? Oh, your friend. And then they didn't fuck with us anymore.
Did you on the hood or on the roof, or where were you on the car?
Like the side. Like, like kind of near.
You didn't climb up the car?
No. It was like on the side of their car, like dog fire hydrant. Style.
So I'm assuming they left?
Yeah, so then they fucked off. We got in an Uber and we went home. And then the next day I proceeded to have the worst hangover of my life, where I tried to meet up with my friend who was there that night at a lunch near her work because we thought we were civilized enough for that.
Couldn't make it.
And I get to the lunch place by her work as I'm like vomiting all down Hollywood Boulevard.
God.
Just like the entire street is covered in my vomit. And then I get there and I'm like sitting at the table, like waiting for her to come. And she comes down from work, sunglasses on, like looking a wreck. And I was like, I just threw up all over the street. And she goes, I just threw up at work. Like, we're leaving. And we just went home. She fucked off of work.
Just slept it off.
Yeah. And we just went back to her apartment and slept. And it was great. It was my last day in Los Angeles.
Oh, yeah. Did you have to like fly out the next day?
Like that night, yeah.
Oh, my God.
So, yeah.
Brutal. We have time for this last story that you sent me. I did want to talk about this because this is kind of sums up everything we've been talking about. Mm-hmm. So the first time that you hung out with your boyfriend, Gregory, what happened?
Well, okay, so we were already dating by this point.
Okay.
We were going to a Halloween party together.
Always Halloween
with a coworker, which it's always a gamble.
So this would have been just a couple months ago.
Yeah, it was very recent. And we go with him. I go with Greg and my friend Will, and so the three of us go to this party. We're having a good time, but somehow Jaclyn just consumed too much. I really don't even know what still happened to me. I think it was like a combination of like not really eating and thinking I wanted to like get really drunk, and I just didn't want to get like I wanted to have like a fun night, like dancing with my new boyfriend for the first time and like hanging out with my friends, and like we were dressed up as Hercules and Meg from the Hercules movie.
Okay.
And I was
How long did you get?
In distress. I mean, we were there for like an hour, and then.
But I'm saying, like, you having that, like, oh, it was my new boyfriend, and we're gonna have a nice night out, like for Halloween. How much time did you get as that?
We danced for like 2 songs together before I looked at him and Will, and I was like, I think I need to throw up. And
2 songs. You got 2 songs.
And Greg just looked at me and he goes, do you want to go in the bathroom or on the roof? And I was like, roof. And so the two of them dragged me up to the roof, and I was up there straight dying for like an hour. And I was
off the roof or like
into a potted plant that was on top of the roof. Those people's poor plant.
Hey, it's a lot of nutrients.
Yeah, so I'm like embarrassed, and Greg and Will are just kind of like having a fun time hanging out together.
Like, that's my girl.
Yeah, they're just like patting me on the back and like letting me throw up and talking to each other, and like they found cards up there, so somehow I was revived enough to play a card game at one point. And then I had to throw up again, and so, like probably a half hour. It was after the card game, so like, we were up there for like a half hour, and I had to go back to my potted plant, and I like kind of like sink down on the ground and sit next to the plant instead of just like standing over it, and I sat in a giant puddle.
Oh no.
So then I was like smelled like vomit. I was wet, like I had no other clothes, and I just felt like so unbelievably embarrassed. But Greg was a trooper. Like he
still together.
Yeah, and like so it was good because I had Will there, and like Will was like staying with me on the roof while Greg was like scouting out the party for like, you know, towels or something to change into. And once I think I threw up every ounce of anything that was inside of me. We left. And Greg
you're like, all right, there's nothing else coming out.
Yeah, I was like, I think I can make it in the Uber. And Greg like thanked my like friend Will, who's like one of my best friends. He's like, Will, thanks so much for like how good you were with Jaclyn today. And Will was like, are you kidding me? Like, thank you. Like, obviously I was gonna be the one that was fine. Like, you were the one who had to prove yourself today. And he did. He was great. And I like was so like embarrassed like the whole night and even the next morning. And he was just like, it's fine. Like, it's just another part of you that I got to see. And I'm like, oh yeah, you need to see that part. I guess.
Do you not get fucked up as well? I mean, it was only a couple months ago, but have you not gotten that fucked up since?
No. No, I never want that to happen again.
Oh man. Well, I appreciate you coming on. This was so much fun.
I had a lot of fun.
Plug everything one more time.
New Kids Comedy on Instagram. Check out our show once a month at the Gray Mare. It's always a really fun time. We have great headliners and also just like your local New York City comedians who need some stage time because they're awesome. They're all so fun and funny and our friends. So
plug your stuff.
And my stuff is I have an Instagram. It's Jack So Whack. That's Jack with a K and Whack without an H. WACK. Jack So Whack. I post a lot of clips on there. Yeah, that's really all I have. So
thank you everybody so much for listening. At Brennan T Comedy on all social media, BrennanTComedy.com. Check out the one-man show, also titled Ex Drinking Buddy. That'll be January 30th at the Producers Club, 6:30 and 8:30 live taping. Please don't be late. And we'll talk to y'all next week.
Woohoo! Bye.